Yahoo Sports Fantasy Football Live is presented by Ram Trucks and by the Callisto Protocol.
Hello and welcome to Week 13. We are back here in the Yahoo Sports virtual studio. It's me, Andy Behrens, coming to you live from Justin Fields country. I am joined by receiving snob Matt Harmon and daily fantasy shark Tank Williams. Guys, just a couple weeks left before the fantasy playoffs open. It is a must-win week for most of us. What is the toughest roster decision that you've had to make this week? Matt, we'll start with you.
Well, you know, I'm not a selfish person. I'm not going to sit here and talk about my problems. My biggest problem right now is actually trying to help my mother solve her running back 2 position. She's got Dameon Pierce, she's got Rachaad White, she's got Brian Robinson. So I'm working that in my head here for the next hour, you know, paying attention to the show, of course, but trying to figure out who the running back 2 is that will help my mother make her playoff push, Andy, in the famous Treviso Babes League. I think I'm leaning Brian Robinson right now, but we'll figure that out here over the next hour.
Bev has to make these playoffs. She can't miss.
Has to.
I mean,
for my sake, she has to. For my sake. You know how bad it's going to be for me? My mom missed the playoffs. It's going to be a tough off season.
Shameful. Tank, yeah, I'll give you the choice of either helping Bev or discussing your own most difficult decision.
Well, for me, I get to talk about a decision that I already made, and that was sitting Gabe Davis on Thursday Night Football, and I feel so much better moving into the weekend. Isn't it amazing, like, how when you have Gabe Davis in your lineup, every snap, every drive, like almost every week, you just dread that dude's existence because he's just eating your soul away bit by bit. But this week I don't have to deal with it. And when I think back on it, like I rid myself of Allen Robinson. Yeah, I was that guy that dropped Allen Robinson for Jameson Williams. He's back this week. And now Allen Robinson is on IR. I wish I would have rid myself of the Gabe Davis problem, but I'm still kind of, mulling around in the sucking place, but at least I don't have to worry about it this week.
I'll leave it to Tank to turn that into a victory lap. Good job. Good effort there. For me, it's a Brian Robinson question as well. I've got a Najee Harris, Brian Robinson situation. I'm probably like the one person who's still like vying for a playoff spot with Najee Harris on the roster. I thought they were giving him to me in the second round. I thought it was just an absolute gift. It's turned into a terrible burden. I think I'm going Brian Robinson in that one, though. I've been switching them back and forth. All right, enough about my problems. Let's get a look at the latest injury information this morning. Let's start with Jaguars running back Travis Etienne. He is active. He left last week's game with a mild sprain, but will be back in there against the Lions today. Broncos receiver Jerry Jeudy, in case this matters to your fantasy football,
there we go.
Is back today after missing the last 2 weeks. He could be limited against Baltimore. Cortland Sutton, who had been ill this week, is also active. Cincinnati will welcome back Jamar Chase today after he missed 5 weeks with a hip injury, but they will likely be without Joe Mixon as he has not cleared concussion protocols as of yet. More on that game later in the show. That's going to be a good one. Finally, Josh Jacobs was listed as a game-time decision against the Chargers today, still nursing that left calf strain. Adam Schefter reporting that he will go today against the Chargers. That's good to see. We kind of had this same drill last week, and it went pretty well for Josh Jacobs. All right, there are plenty of ways to reach us this morning. You can send your questions on Twitter using the hashtag AskFFL, or you can toss a question in the chat. We'll answer as many as we possibly can, plus our own Scott Pianowski is handing out candy canes and answering questions all morning long, live on Twitter. Right now, it's time to turn to the flex position and our Built to Serve picks, brought to you by Ram Trucks. They're redefining what a truck can be and do every day with plenty of power, capability, and durability. Each week, we're picking players that align with these quality traits that can lead your fantasy lineup into a winning position. Matt, who is looking capable to you this week?
Yeah, let's take it all the way back to this offseason when the Jacksonville Jaguars were clowned for signing Christian Kirk to that contract. Well, he's proven to be pretty capable of stepping up to be that guy that they expect him to be. And frankly, he's always been a capable player. He was just a little overpaid. We don't care about that. Nobody cares about that contract at this point. They've gotten a pretty good season out of Christian Kirk. However, he's been a little up and down of late. Obviously, Zay Jones enjoyed a career day last week. Well, the pendulum is about to swing back to Christian Kirk because while the Detroit Lions have come a long way in fixing their defense from the product that they rolled out earlier in the season, they still have a lot of problems covering slot receivers. They've allowed 655 yards to slot receivers since week 10. That is the most in the NFL. We know that Christian Kirk primarily should be a slot receiver. He's been a 76% slot player since week 9. I know it sounds weird to say, but like the key to getting big Christian Kirk weeks is good matchups, of course, but also like Zay Jones and Marvin Jones being out there because that allows Christian Kirk to stay in the slot. I'm trusting him as a top 12 receiver this week.
That is a great call. I'm going to talk to you about durability. And you know, one thing that has been durable over the years is Allen Lazard finding the end zone against the Chicago Bears. He did it earlier this season. He did it in both games last season. He's done it in 4 of his last 5. He's just too big. This Bears defense, they can't handle him. They haven't been able to handle him for a while. 6'5", it's huge. Great red zone threat. The Bears defense also, they're pretty terrible. They came into the season bad, and then they've just gotten worse along the way. They get a little bit worse every day, it seems. Christian Watson, obviously the number 1 in Green Bay now. He's the guy that Aaron Rodgers will just lob it up for. But Allen Lazard, he's been plenty good. He's actually seen double-digit targets in 2 of his last 4 games. I'm expecting a big target game in this one, so Lazard has to stay in your fantasy plans. Matt, talk to me about power.
Yeah, I think power, that goes right in hand with a guy like Brian Robinson. And, you know, we talk a lot about Taylor Heineke. We talk a lot about Terry McLaurin. A lot of the passing game guys in that offense. But one of the reasons that Washington's kind of redefined their season, they've gotten on this little winning streak of late, is a recommitment to the power run game with Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson, of course. But Brian Robinson's sort of been the lead back. And Washington ranks 32nd in neutral pass rate since week 10. That's why those target share numbers look great for Terry McLaurin, but the raw volume just hasn't been there because Washington's kind of running the hell out of the ball. And like I said, Brian Robinson is the lead back. 48% of the team rushes in that same span. He's obviously coming off his best game as a pro, 105 yards on the ground, 18 carries, and even added 20 yards in the air and a touchdown as well. That's normally not what we think of with Brian Robinson. Like the matchup this week, think this should be a close competitive game. And Antonio Gibson, a little banged up in practice this week. We'll see how that split goes. Maybe it leans even more to Brian Robinson, which is why I think he's going to bring a lot of power to your fantasy lineup and hopefully my mom's as well.
Another good call. All right, get those guys in your rosters and be sure to check out the entire game-changing Ram lineup at ram.com.
What it do, baby? It's your boy T-Money with my week 13 Ballers on the budget. Now, first I'm starting off with quarterback Derek Carr. He's $24. He's going against the Los Angeles Chargers, but you know what? If Mike White was at $27, it would be him because he was him against those Chicago Bears. Now, I told you, if he carved up those Bears, he has a magically delicious matchup with those Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings that let Mac Jones, who ended up giving his coaches the Russell Wilson treatment because they had him out there on the field looking like Russell Wilson. He threw for 400 yards against this team, and now Mike White has him. But since he's $27, I'm going with Derek Carr because he's thrown multiple touchdowns in the last 4 games. He's in a potential shootout with the Los Angeles Chargers. And, you know, Mike White is a little bit more expensive. So get Derek Carr in your lineup. He has a really good matchup. But, man, Mike effing White. Now at running back, let's go with Gus Edwards going against those Denver Broncos. He's $17. The Gus Bus is warming back up. He had 16 carries, 52 yards, and a touchdown in a loss against the Jacksonville Jaguars last week. This is the perfect bounce back spot against the Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos have given up in the last 5 games. Like, check this out. The Jets ran for 155. The Jags ran for 191. The Titans ran for 63. How did that happen? And then the Raiders had 109 and the Panthers had 185. Get this dude in your lineup. This is a blow-up spot for the Ravens. They about to bounce back hard against those Denver Broncos. At wide receiver, I'm going with Garrett Wilson. He's $18. He's at Minnesota. Now, come on. Y'all know I didn't hype up Mike White all that time when I had Derek Carr as my quarterback. There's a meaning for my madness, unless it's Halloween show and, you know, I'm just in character and I'm just talking about randomness. But my man, Garrett Wilson, he had 8 targets, 5 receptions, 94 yards, 2 tubs last week. man, he has a magically delicious matchup against these Minnesota Vikings. Don't miss the layup. My boy should go off today. And at tight end, I'm going with Harrison Bryant at Houston. He's $10. No David Njoku. The Houston Texans give up the 14 most points to fantasy tight ends. I feel like the Texans are probably going to lean heavily on the run as they ease Deshaun Watson back into the flow. And Bryant is only $10, so he's basically a punt. And let me get this right for y'all before I go ahead and end this segment. Like, this is baller on a budget. Like, none of the ballers at the tight end position are on a budget. So get your mind right when I'm handing out these suggestions. I saw some of y'all talking a little sideways on social media. Come on now, it's ball on the budget. He's $10 for a reason. Now remember, the T is for the money, and the money is something that you will not have in your wallet if you do not get these guys in your lineup. Now I'm gonna go ahead and throw this over to my man, Reverend Barons, who's notorious for stealing money out of the church collection pot to pay for his staff plays every week.
Oh, yeah, it's prop time. This is quickly becoming my favorite segment on the show. You know the drill here. We each discuss a favorite NFL prop bet, and then we decide if we like the over or the under. I make it look so easy each week. Tank, why don't you start us off?
Okay, well, I'm going to start us off with George Pickens, over 45.5 receiving yards. My man is from Alabama. He's going to play in Atlanta. And what did the Georgia Bulldogs just do to LSU in Atlanta yesterday? Oh, my goodness. They just stomped the remainder of that country accent out of Brian Kelly, and I love to see it. But my man George Pickens has gone over this number the past 2 weeks in a row. Atlanta's defense gives up the 6th most receiving yards per game in the league. And I feel like Kenny Pickett, this may be one of his first, really blow-up games going against the Atlanta defense. So, are y'all guys willing to fade me and George Pickens going home to play against those Atlanta Falcons over 45.5?
There's no way I'm fading you on this. I love George Pickens. I've loved him all season. We still haven't seen a monster target game from him, but it's got to be coming. This matchup is so good. He could do this on one play, so I am definitely taking the over as well. How about you, Matt?
I'm going to take the over, and I'll save my points as to why for later. I don't feel great trusting a guy in Tank who went 0 for 3 last week, although, Tank, I do forgive you for the Amari Cooper nonsense that we got out of Andy. I mean, what a disgusting, despicable display.
Yeah, it happens.
But 0 for 3, bro. Not a good look, pal.
It happens.
Wow.
It happens. I let my
there's a little skirmish at the bottom of the standings there. That's interesting. My call this week is going to be Josh Palmer over 54.5 receiving yards. Josh Palmer's done this in 4 of 5 games. In 2 of those games, he's gone over 100 yards. He's been great for a month and a half. Volume is going his way, and the matchup this week, it's Vegas. Vegas gives up 253 passing yards per week. They are a bottom third pass defense. I think this is going to be a really fun shootout of a game. I think we could see big weeks from pretty much every member of the Chargers receiving corps, Palmer included. I think he is definitely going over. Won't need overtime to do it like Amari did. Matt, do you agree?
Yeah, this show is not very fun when Tank and I are just duking it out over a silver medal and Andy is victory laughing all over us. Another disgusting display. Get back to kicker props, Barons. I'm taking the under on this one. I think Keenan Allen's in for a big week. I know it doesn't seem that great, but I mean, again, strategically, it doesn't make a lot of sense for me to follow Andy here. Got to differentiate. I will take the under here for Josh Palmer, who's not a player I necessarily trust anyways.
Tank, are you going to be a coward there as well?
I knew that hatred for Palmer was going to, kind of steer him in the wrong direction. But I also hate you, Barons, for saying that Harmon and I are fighting over the scraps. We're just the peasants fighting over the little lonely scraps. But I have Justin Herbert in the lineup. I have Keenan Allen in the lineup. So I've looked at this matchup closely. And I know that Josh Palmer was just, solid last week. I expect him to have a really solid game this week. So I got to roll with my boy Rev and go over this prop as well.
All right, Matt, talk to us about another Steeler.
Yeah, great stuff. Absolutely love that Tank and I are trying to take down Andy while getting on board with the high school offense that Matt Canada's rolling out with the Pittsburgh Steelers. But I am going to take the over here on Deontay Johnson, 55.5 receiving yards. I mean, he's got to turn all that volume into a big game at some point. As Tank mentioned, why not against the Atlanta Falcons, which, I know I said this stat a couple of episodes ago. We can update this now. The Falcons are now in double digits in terms of quarterback hurries. They're at 10, fellas. Wonderful. It's still last in the league. They give up the most passing yards in the NFL. I'm with Tank that I think this is a good time for Kenny Pickett to get right. I'm trying to pick like a guy who's been super disappointing, so maybe you guys don't want to tail me. I got to differentiate, move up the standings here. But Tank, you said you're in on one Steelers receiver. Can we make it two?
See, I think the thing that gets me in trouble is that this is a segment where you should just use your research and just kind of say what you feel versus letting your emotions get involved, and then we're pitting ourselves against each other versus looking at the stats and the data that's presented in front of us. And so with that being said, I'm gonna just ignore you and the fact that I wish I could come through that screen and choke you out at times and just say that, yeah, I agree with you. Since I'm going with George Pickens, that I'm also rolling with my man Deontay Johnson going over his prop as well.
Oh man, I thought you guys were coming together there for a second, and then it got
right.
And I understand.
No, clearly not.
I should. Part of me thinks I should just throw you a bone here, go the other way, and give you guys a shot to come back into this thing. But
oh my goodness!
Instead, I think I'm just going to stiff arm and take the over on this because that's the way I'd actually bet it. The matchup is just too good against Atlanta. I actually think Deontay's looked really good this season. It's mostly been a function of the offense, as Matt mentioned, and Kenny Pickett's play till recently. But Kenny Pickett at least has taken some of the interceptions out of his game. If not, the accuracy isn't quite there yet, but he's been a little bit better in recent weeks. And again, I just think against Atlanta, this is a very winnable game for Pittsburgh. I think he can get there. Now, let's get to my absolute favorite part of the segment. When we look at the standings entering Week 13, after my guy Amari Cooper just cruised past his yardage prop with ease, absolute ease, definitely didn't need the final minute of overtime to do it. Look at that, 24 points. Look at that skirmish for second. Wow, that's a battle.
Oh, shut up, Andy.
I really have nothing else to say. I hate both of you.
Shut up.
Actually.
Why me?
Oh man.
And the hate is real.
Nothing but good vibes on this show. All right, it is time for our first break on Fantasy Football Live. Still ahead, Yahoo Fantasy contributor Chris Allen joins the show to look at who could help you lock up that playoff spot. Stick around.
You want your sports news in more than just a few characters? With the help of a bunch of different characters?
You play better than me, I respect the shit out of you.
He beat us, yes. I'm not a ball player. Prince had hops.
Hosted by everyone's favorite character.
Only time will tell if that's a lie or a big-ass lie.
You're Calais Campbell's brother, so Calais got the most sacks that he has is on me.
Give us 2 minutes and we'll give you The Rush. Weekday mornings on Yahoo Sports.
Welcome to Mad Bets, everyone. I am Minty Bets alongside Jared Quay and Pam Maldonado. I'm Ariel Epstein.
We've got a big Sunday night football game.
It's time for some Monday night football. Jared, let's kick things off with you. What's your best bet this week?
Oh, I love my bet with 5-star confidence.
Ariel, you can call it a homer pick if you want. It's not.
By the way, that probably will be in Prop Queen coming up on Sunday.
I'm gonna be busting these babies out this weekend.
Woo! You did that with your winning bets, huh? You've been on fire. That's what you buying with your winnings?
Oh man, I love it.
All right, we are back on Fantasy Football Live. Lots of difficult decisions to make for your rosters in Week 13. So let's figure out how to survive the day presented by the Callisto Protocol. Each week, we're looking at one game and picking players we think will most help fantasy managers. Let's target this Chiefs-Bengals matchup. And Matt, who are you looking at here?
Yeah, I'm looking at Juju Smith-Schuster in this one. It feels like it's been a while. Obviously, he missed a game. He left mid-game against the Jaguars because of the concussion. It's been a while since we've seen the big Juju performances, but this was a guy that was kind of emerging as clearly in the circle of trust prior to that injury. And obviously he got back last week, but he only ran a route on 45.7% of the dropbacks. He only had an 8% target share. But Andy Reid talked about it as a situation where, hey, look, they didn't know early on in the week if he was even going to be cleared from the concussion protocol, if he was going to get back and play in that game. I mean, that was a nasty hit he took against the Jacksonville Jaguars. So they really weren't able to integrate him fully into the game plan, but I think we see him back to his normal role as the top wide receiver, obviously not top pass catcher because Travis Kelce's still there. I think we see him fully integrated back in this game. And it's a game where they're going to need Juju, man. You know, last year, obviously, when they went against the Bengals, they dropped 8 in coverage. They did a lot of cool, fun things on the back end there. You know, Juju's been an emerging guy who's beat zone coverage, and I think he's got Patrick Mahomes' trust. He's also got my trust in fantasy in this matchup as well.
Yeah, a guy I'm trusting this week is going to be Isaiah Pacheco, the rookie. And I know there was a lot of fretting when the Chiefs signed Melvin Gordon, but I think that says a lot more about Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Ronald Jones than it does actually about Isaiah Pacheco, who's been great now for like 3 weeks in a row. He's coming off a game with 23 touches. For the season, he's averaging 4.7 yards per carry. He's been efficient. Not really a high-volume receiving threat necessarily, but he's been so good on the ground, and volume is coming his way. He is the early down guy for the Chiefs. We like that. We also like the matchup. It's the Bengals. They're only a middle-of-the-pack run defense, so pretty much all the carries in this thing should tilt toward Pacheco. I think it's a great matchup for him. He's tied to an offense that is scoring 30, 35 a week. We love situations like this, so Pacheco, for me, somebody we can definitely trust. Tank, who are you rolling with?
I'm going with the running back on the other side. I'm going with Samaje Perine. As of late last night, Joe Mixon hadn't cleared concussion protocol yet, and we've seen Perine become a beast in his offense. A couple weeks ago, he had 3 receiving touchdowns. He had a rushing touchdown last week, and I think he's going to play an integral role in this game because Chris Jones can provide immediate pressure to Joe Burrow up the middle. And I feel that Joe Burrow has been really smart by getting the ball out of his hands quickly to try to avoid those sacks. And one of the main beneficiaries is the running backs. And I think that's why we've seen Samaje Perine thrive over the past couple of weeks. So whether Joe Mixon plays or not, I think he's going to have a huge role in this game. And it's leaning to the fact that Joe Mixon isn't going to play, which means that this could be a really nice spot to slide Samaje Perine into your flex position.
Yeah, it's a great call. Perine's been really, really good for a couple weeks in a row. Be sure to explore the depths of fear in the all-new story-driven survival horror game, The Callisto Protocol, available now on PlayStation, Xbox, and PC.
All right, let's welcome to the show a Yahoo Fantasy contributor who I think doesn't actively want to beat me up like somebody else on this show. It's Chris Allen, my guy. Chris, what's going on, man? Look, you've got like an eccentric collection of booze back there. That's great to see because these are stressful times, man. Okay, there's some people out there who need some short-term fantasy solutions, some sneaky guys to help them boost into the playoffs. We got a set of wide receivers to talk about here. You know I love to see that. Let's get it started with a guy in Dallas who hasn't really had that big game yet in Michael Gallup, but I'm kind of with you here that I think it could be coming.
Right, and I think the reason why is because everybody loves Dak Prescott as of right now. I mean, seeing him over the last few weeks, and even since he's come back from injury, the Cowboys, I mean, they're one of the top teams in the league running play action rate. Like Dak's been using play action on about 34.1% of his dropbacks, and that's that easy button that you want for your quarterback. And while CeeDee Lamb has been the primary beneficiary of it, we've seen Michael Gallup getting more involved in there as well. Since week 8, Michael Gallup has had a higher percentage of the snaps right now, 80+% over the past month or so. Also running around on about 88% of Prescott's dropbacks. And so looking at his upcoming matchups, I mean, especially in week 14, where you've got some of the higher profile wide receivers that might not be in your lineup. I mean, Terry McLaurin's going to be out. Michael Pittman is going to be out as well. I mean, even if you've been dabbling with Christian Watson, I mean, they've got some good teams that are going to be on bye. And so with the Cowboys, they're going to be facing Houston. We haven't really seen much out of the Texans defense over the past few weeks, especially with Derek Stingley out. I think it could be another matchup that we would want to exploit. CeeDee Lamb is going to get his, but I think Michael Gallup is going to be the one that we'll be wanting to target, at the very least throwing in our flex for sure.
Yeah, everybody's talking about a different wide receiver potentially signed with the Cowboys who's coming off an ACL injury. But the farther we get away from that injury with Michael Gallup, I think the better he will look. All right, let's talk about another NFC East wide receiver here going against Washington. It's Darius Slayton, Scott Pianowski's favorite NFL player. Scott will be so happy that we got a mention of him on the show.
Yeah, because I think if you just look at Slayton's efficiency numbers, I think that's where I would want to start. Because with all the other injuries right now, I mean, Kenny Golladay is going to be another inactive for today. They're relying on Richie James, Isaiah Hodgins. I mean, even Daniel Bellinger, I think, with the orbital eye socket injury he sustained early in the year, he's going to be active. We don't have a lot of legitimate options for the passing game outside of possibly Saquon Barkley. But over the last 4 weeks, Darius Slayton, 8th in yards per route run amongst all wide receivers at 2.5. And while the Giants offense hasn't been the most voluminous, I mean, they are bottom 6 in terms of pass rate over expectation over the last month or so. I mean, you're not always going to want to run out and pick up one of Daniel Jones's pass catchers. I completely understand that. And especially going up against Washington today, and then Washington goes on their bye and they face them again in a couple of weeks. It's not the best matchup, especially with Washington's front playing so well. But in terms of the volume that we can expect for Darius Slayton, not too many other options in there. And with as efficient as Slayton has been, as a wide receiver, I do think he's another guy that, if you've got some other options, I get it. But if you're looking for that flex spot, if you're looking for that punch to get you into the playoffs, I mean, Slayton's not a bad option.
Oh, this next one, this tugs at the heartstrings here. I've seen that Zach Wilson, obviously not playing, but his buddy Braxton Berrios is even wearing a Mike White shirt. If you've lost Braxton Berrios, it's over for old Zach Wilson there. Can the Mike White magic continue for my guy Elijah Moore?
I don't see why not. I think the biggest problem for Elijah Moore is we need to see him on the field. I mean, it was cool seeing him get the couple targets, 64 yards in a score last week in their romp over the Bears, and that's all fine and dandy. But now going up against the Vikings this week is going to be a true test of what this offense is going to be. And while I'm all hyped for the fighting Mike Whites and all that, I think it's just more about who Mike White is as a passer. Shorter A-dot, trying to play a little bit more conservative and let his playmakers and let his pass catchers do some of the work after the fact. And so we saw that with Garrett Wilson last week. We saw that with Elijah Moore. And I think that should continue moving on. I mean, their upcoming matchups for the next few weeks. I mean, who have they got? I mean, so they've got Minnesota this week. I mean, Buffalo is definitely going to be a tough out, at least on paper. And then, of course, they've got Detroit the following week. But Minnesota, all right, that's fine. I mean, Jacoby Myers was good against Minnesota just this past week. I mean, 4 for 62. I mean, CeeDee Lamb had a good game with it. Stephon Diggs had a good game against them as well. And Buffalo, and while a lot of folks would look at Buffalo as being a tough matchup, and it should be a tough out for Mike White, we've actually seen other interior receivers have good games against Buffalo. I mean, Amon-Ra St. Brown went berserk against them on Thanksgiving. I mean, Amari Cooper had a decent game against them as well. So it's just the matchups might not look great on paper, but with the way that Mike White is playing, again, shorter A-dot, and with the way that Elijah Moore is playing, primarily out of the slot, I mean, both of his targets last week came out of the slot. I think it sets up well for him to at least be a wide receiver we should consider moving into the fantasy playoffs.
Yeah, I love that. I think he's really well set up. Let's just get him more and more involved for sure. This last guy here, look, he's a fan favorite. Highlight bias is totally shined on George Pickens, but very good player. And like we talked about earlier, got a great matchup this week.
Yeah, George Pickens. There was some guy on Twitter, I forget the website that he contributes to, talking about success rate against man coverage, success rate against press, and George Pickens' name happened to pop up a little bit. 70.4% success rate against man coverage for one George Pickens, and also 74% against press. I mean, it's solid wide receiver right out of the gate, but if you looked at his rookie profile, you would know that he could be that prototypical X receiver for the Steelers. And we've definitely seen that so far. And going up against Atlanta, I mean, this week, even with A.J. Terrell back, I don't care about any of that. I mean, the Falcons are still allowing over 30 yards per drive to opposing teams, and that's with Terrell back in the lineup. It should be a competitive matchup, given the way that the Steelers defense plays. But overall, George Pickens is well set up, being their primary outside receiver with the go balls that he's running. I mean, Kenny Pickett's, his tendency to look at Pickens down the field. I can see a number of other highlight reel worthy catches for Pickens going on this weekend. But then looking at his upcoming schedule, Baltimore the week after that, Carolina the week afterwards. Now, Baltimore, again, on paper, almost like the Buffalo matchup I was talking about earlier, looks bad on paper, right? But no, I mean, if you look at some of the other wide receivers that have gone up against Baltimore over the past couple of weeks, I mean, look, Zay Jones, 14 targets, 122 yards just this past week against the same secondary. And again, Carolina looks bad on paper. They're 12th in EPA allowed like per attempt, like over the last like 6 weeks. Looks bad on paper. Courtland Sutton attached to Russell Wilson, 8 for 75. And yet Demarcus Robinson the week before that, the same Demarcus Robinson that was the 6th option in Kansas City like last season, 9 for 128 and against the Carolina Panthers. So yeah, they might look bad on paper. I totally understand that, but the matchups do set up well, and with the way that George Pickens has been playing, I'm definitely looking forward to targeting them and helping to again boost my team like as they get to the playoffs.
George Pickens, pretty cool player. Chris Allen's work for Yahoo Fantasy and across the fantasy football industry, very cool as well. People should be checking Chris out, everything he's doing for us and across the fantasy space. Chris, thanks so much for joining the show, man. Hopefully those 4 players can help us make a playoff push here.
Anytime, brother.
All right, it's Fantasy Face-Off time, and Chris set us up perfectly for this by mentioning Zay Jones. This is where we talk about one of the most popular waiver ads of the week. You can tell it was kind of a sketchy week on waivers if we're talking about Zay Jones, and we compare him to some similarly ranked players. So let's start off with Zay. Zay, by the way, has seen 24 targets over the last 2 games. Like, whatever you thought of him coming into the season, he has been a target hog lately. Tank, how do you feel about Zay Jones versus Treylon Burks?
I like Zay Jones better. Treylon Burks has definitely come along the past couple of weeks. He's heavily involved in that Tennessee pass game. He actually stole one of Derrick Henry's touchdowns because Derrick Henry fumbled it away last week. But that being said, I just feel like Zay Jones has the better matchup. I kind of like the game script that we're going into when you have the Jacksonville Jaguars going against the Detroit Lions. I think that could be a nice little shootout there. And so I'll lean towards Zay on this one.
Yeah, I'm with you there. It's just a great matchup against Detroit, and Trevor Lawrence, of course, coming off a signature game last week. How about Zay Jones versus a player we discussed earlier in the prop segment, Diontae Johnson?
Well, even though this is someone that my man Mateo recommended, I just can't go against the research that we've stated earlier. Like, this dude has an amazing matchup going against the Atlanta Falcons secondary. They get honey roasted by almost everyone that they play, and I feel like Diontae has received enough volume in the past game, target-wise, to be able to take advantage of it this week. So give me Diontae in this one.
Yeah, I actually agree with you again here. We can't really talk about the favorable matchup with Zay Jones without mentioning the super favorable matchup for Diontae Johnson against Atlanta. I think that's where I'd go as well. Okay, last one here. Zay Jones against Josh Palmer.
I think when you look at it, Josh Palmer has had like a consistent role in that Los Angeles Chargers offense. He just had like a little bit of a mild week, and I think he may ramp up again this week going against the Las Vegas Raiders. I believe this is a sneaky shootout right here. It may not be sneaky at all. I mean, if you look at some of the props for Justin Herbert, I mean, they have his touchdown, his yardage like way up, so they're expecting an explosion from him. So if they're expecting that from Justin Herbert, I think he may be one of the main beneficiaries. So give me Palmer over Zay Jones in this one as well.
Yeah, I'm with you again. I can't wait for that game. This week is full of good games. Even the bad games are good. I would definitely go Josh Palmer there. Volume has been going his way. All right, Matt, let's check out the chat. What is going on over there?
Ooh, checking in on the chat this early in the show. You love to see it. All right, my people, whether you're watching on Facebook, you're watching on YouTube, hit me with good questions in the chat right now because we're going to help you out here real quick. First one I see here from Kevin K. We're talking about, Kevin K, look, I'm already messing up, is replying to UPS Power. Shout out to UPS, I guess. Juju Smith-Schuster or Christian Watson for the flex. This does feel a little bit like a classic ceiling versus floor debate. I really talked earlier about how much I like Juju Smith-Schuster this week. I think you can use him as a pretty solid, reliable wide receiver too, but man, it is tough to pass up what Christian Watson has been doing lately. I know Aaron Rodgers is banged up, but as the great Andy Behrens would tell you, the Bears defense completely stinks. So I'm going to go with Christian Watson there. Another one we got here in the chat from Rogue on YouTube, Pacheco or Rachaad White. This one is also very close. I'm a little nervous about Rachaad White just because we don't know exactly what's going on with the whole Leonard Fournette, the Rachaad White split. So I feel like I'm going to go with Isaiah Pacheco there, chasing the touchdown in a potentially high-scoring game. I'll take another one here. A quarterback question from Brandon. Justin Fields or Dak Prescott? This is another one I've gotten a couple of times this morning. Love that Justin Fields is back there. That's great to see, but we don't know exactly how much they're going to run him. Is there going to be those same design rush attempts? So I really love the way that Dak Prescott is playing lately. I think he's playing at a super high level. Give me Dak in this one. Last one I'll take here from Christina, again on YouTube. Rachaad White or Keenan Allen for the flex. I'll come back to what I just said. We don't know how the split is going to work with Leonard Fournette back there. I'd love to see Rachaad White be the 1A in that backfield, and especially hang on to some of that passing equity that he had against Cleveland last week. However, we don't know if that's going to be the case. What we do know is that Keenan Allen, really good at football, really trusted by Justin Herbert, and really for sure going to walk into a lot of volume. So that is my pick on that one. All right, chat room, shout out to you guys. Keep the questions coming. Let's get back to Andy and maybe some more people that are asking us questions.
All right, good stuff, Matt, except for the part when you picked against Justin Fields. That felt like an attack. Let's see what the people are asking. We're going to start with Graham. This is a non-PPR league. He needs to pick between Latavius Murray, Isaiah Pacheco, or Antonio Gibson. And Graham is telling us that they're leaning Murray. So Tank, can you talk him out of that?
Ooh.
Yeah, I think I can. Well, even though, Antonio Gibson has the bad will, so we understand he may be out of that. Brian Robinson should smash today. But Latavius Murray and that offense is pretty limited, even though they're playing with Mr. Unlimited. And the thing that really gets me the most is that they're going against the Baltimore Ravens, who are coming off that tough loss against Jacksonville. I think this is a total rebound spot for the Ravens. I think they smashed the Broncos. So give me Pacheco on this one.
I thought for a second there you were going to drift into character as Russell Wilson, but it didn't happen. Next one is from Rotozilla. Rotozilla is asking Dameon Pierce or George Pickens. I'll just say I don't think you can go wrong here. I think these are both great starts this week. I know that people are panicked about Dameon Pierce perhaps running into a rookie wall. You know what he's running into this week is the Cleveland Browns run defense, which has been absolutely terrible all season long, giving you over 5 yards per carry. I think this is a huge bounce back spot for Dameon Pierce. I don't think there's much of anything the Browns can do to stop him. That is where I'm going to go. Again, I can imagine a big week from George Pickens. I'd love to slide him into a wide receiver spot, but if I really have to just shoehorn one of these guys into my flex, it is definitely going to be Dameon Pierce. Let's see. Let's take one more here. Who's next? We've got Mac asking Tony Pollard or Christian Watson in the flex. Matt, what do you have?
Two good options. Like them both. Talked about Christian Watson earlier. But, the good thing with Tony Pollard is we know what that split's going to look like, right? I talked about the Bucs running backs. We don't exactly know what that split's going to look like. We know that Tony Pollard, I know Zeke had the bigger game on Thanksgiving, but Tony Pollard had more opportunities. He was certainly well involved. I like him to get a touchdown in this matchup. I like the Dallas Cowboys to kind of roll over the Colts. Should be a lot of rushing opportunities there for Pollard. I'll go with him, just with the slight risk of Aaron Rodgers and the injury going against that Chicago Bears, quote, defense.
All right, I like that call a lot. Time for our next break here on Fantasy Football Live. Coming up, Matt and I will offer some last-minute sleepers for Week 13 and some players to stash today for the playoffs. Don't go away.
You want your sports news in more than just a few characters? With the help of a bunch of different characters?
You play better than me, I respect the shit out of you.
He beat us, yes. I'm not a ball player. Prince had hops.
Hosted by everyone's favorite character.
Only time will tell if that's a lie or a big-ass lie.
You're Calais Campbell's brother, so Calais got the most sacks that he has is on me.
Give us 2 minutes and we'll give you The Rush. Weekday mornings on Yahoo Sports.
Welcome to Mad Bets, everyone. I am Minty Beth alongside Jared Quay and Pam Maldonado. I'm Ariel Epstein.
We've got a big Sunday night football game.
It's time for some Monday Night Football. Jared, let's kick things off with you. What's your best bet this week?
Oh, I love my bet with 5-star confidence.
Ariel, you can call it a homer pick if you want. It's not.
By the way, that probably will be in Prop Queen coming up on Sunday.
I'm gonna be busting these babies out this weekend.
Woo! You did that with your winning bets, huh? You've been on fire. That's what you're buying with your winnings?
Oh man, I love it.
Are back here on Fantasy Football Live, the very special Week 13 edition. Matt, let's quickly give the people what they need here with a couple of last-minute fantasy flyers. Who do you like this week?
Well, this feels like, I don't know, the 5th, 6th, 7th week of me trying to will Nico Collins to a big game. But why not, man? Let's do it one more time here. Look, and it kind of is happening for Nico Collins, at least from an opportunity standpoint. The guy has 26 targets since Week 10. He leads the team in routes per dropback, leads the team in target share. He just actually hasn't been getting a lot of vertical looks, which is weird because if you know anything about Nico Collins' game, he's like a big vertical, down-the-field X receiver. 6.2 air yards in that stretch since Week 10 per target. Again, that's not really Nico Collins' game. I don't have a lot of respect for Kyle Allen as a downfield passer, so a little bit troubling here, but no Brandon Cooks in this matchup. Should just be more volume for Nico Collins, who I think can play a little bit. And the Browns' defense is obviously worse as a rush defense, but overall can be exploited. I think this is a good week to throw Nico Collins out there if you're desperate for a flex.
I love that call. We've been talking about him in the Pickups podcast all season long, it seems, and I think this is probably the week that he actually goes off. For me, I'm going to go with a quarterback here. We don't talk about a lot of quarterbacks in Fantasy Flyers, but I am going to go with Mike White. We've mentioned him a few times on the show already. He's coming off, obviously, a huge game against a terrible Bears defense. He completed like 79% of his passes, over 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. He has unlocked Garrett Wilson. He has unlocked Elijah Moore. And he's unlocked all these simple little layup throws that Zach Wilson seemingly can't hit. Now, this week, White gets the Vikings defense, and the only thing Minnesota has really done well defensively this year is they can turn you over, but they give up 1 million yards. They are dead last in the league against the pass. They give up 8.3 yards per pass attempt, so there's a pretty good chance that here in Mike White's 5th career NFL start, he's going to get his 3rd 300-yard game. I think he's in for a big one here. I've got him ranked right alongside, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, just exactly where you thought you'd find Mike White this week. I think he can give you a little bit of a boost. All right, it's also time to strategize a little bit about the playoffs, and we're going to be stashing some players ahead of the biggest weeks on the fantasy calendar. So, Matt, who's a guy that you're interested in stashing right now?
Yeah, look, this is the time to start loading your bench up with upside, right? Nobody cares about your wide receiver 6. Nobody cares about your backup tight end. Hell, I don't even really probably care about your backup quarterback, okay? You probably got a locked-in starter. So what you need to do is go grab yourself some upside running backs that are basically just injury-based lottery tickets. One guy I never feel like we discuss when we talk about this group of players, like everybody talks about Alexander Mattison, obviously. Everybody talks about, Jaylen Warren. With Najee Harris dealing with injuries. What about Dontrell Hilliard as the backup for Derrick Henry? And look, I don't have any wood close to me, but I would knock on some wood here because I don't want to see Derrick Henry hurt, right? But he's a guy that has had injuries in the problem. There's some great, and I mean great matchups for the Tennessee Titans coming up, just in case Derrick Henry misses time, right? They get the Jaguars after this week. They get the Chargers. Hello, ever heard of their run defense? They've got another game against the Houston Texans before the season is over on Christmas Eve. Just in case Derrick Henry's not out there, man, Dontrell Hilliard, I think, would take over a pretty big role for the Tennessee Titans. We know they're a run-heavy team. So that's a guy that, just in case something happens to Derrick Henry, you park him on your bench.
Yeah, I tell you, a name that I'm interested in stashing in deep leagues in particular is Daniel Bellinger of the New York Giants. We talked about him earlier in the season, right, because his snaps were trending up, the targets were trending up. In the game before he suffered that scary eye injury, he had actually played over 90% of the snaps, so he was on the field all the time. He's a really inviting red zone target for Daniel Jones, 6'6". Again, he's done a little bit of work in the red zone already. We've seen him catch a couple of touchdown passes. And you may have noticed there is an absolutely desperate need for competent receivers in New York right now, right? They've suffered so many injuries. They've had so many disappointments. I really think Bellinger is a player who can step in and in these final weeks in December make a real fantasy splash and make a little bit of noise for fantasy managers. He's also got that Vikings defense that I just mentioned coming up in the fantasy playoffs, so that is super inviting as well. All right, let's send it over to the sportsbook right now with Minty and Tank.
Oh wow, what's up? It's your boy T Money, and this is my first time in the sports book, and I have to admit, it feels kind of nice in here. And you know what's even better? I get to spend some time with the queen of the unders and the only person to make Andy Barons face his problems instead of run away from them. Minty Bets, how we doing? And also, do you have any more strays for Andy in that clip?
No shots for Andy. Sorry, Tank. But hey, I told you I'm not queen of the unders anymore. I'm not taking any more unders for the rest of the season on this show. So be prepared, Tank.
Okay, we will see about that. Now, first off, speaking of someone that likes to catch a lot of strays, Matt Ryan and the Colts are playing on Sunday Night Football against those Dallas Cowboys, and we know Matty Ice is the most sacked quarterback in the league, but I think you have another prop that highlights something that he's good at. Do tell.
Yes, not only is he the most sacked quarterback in the league, but he's throwing the third most interceptions. So my prop today is for Matty Ice to throw an interception. It's a little juiced at -160, so if you can parlay this with something, I suggest to do it. Matt Ryan has thrown an interception in every primetime game this season, and that Cowboys defense, although they've recorded only 7 picks on the season, we know this defense is stingy. So yeah, he's definitely going to throw an interception. Also, I know it's not Thursday, but he's thrown an interception in every Thursday night football game in his career. So I think the trends are good for, you know, Sunday night too, okay?
Wow, that is an amazing stat that I will definitely write down. Okay, same game, same position, America's team with a different lean. What does Dak Prescott have in store for us?
Yeah, we're going Dak Prescott over 8.5 rushing yards. Now, on paper, this Indy defense is great against the pass. That's why I couldn't take any overs on Dak's passing props. This Colts defense is only allowing the 5th fewest passing yards per game, only 6.4 yards per pass attempt, and the 4th fewest passing touchdowns. Dak's going to have a hard time through the air, and he's going to be feeding Zeke more and possibly taking matters into his own hands, running the ball himself. He's well flown over this total in several games this season, so we're going to go over 8.5 rushing yards for Dak Prescott.
Okay, now by my count, that's 2 overs, but I see that we have a Tom Brady prop coming up, so we about to go back to what Minty does best, the queen of the under.
I was thinking of taking the under here, okay? But we're going Tom Brady, longest pass completion over 36.5 yards. Okay. Although Brady's last 3 games, his longest passes were under 37 yards. I mean, you know, this New Orleans defense is going to get to him and force him to air out the ball far and fast. The Saints do pretty well against the Bucs in recent history, and Brady has thrown over this total in 2 of his last 3 meetings against the Saints. So I'm going to take the over here.
Well, I'll be damned. We got 3 overs in a row, boy. We got ourselves a heater going on. I need to get in the book more often. All right, we got a Jarvis Landry prop coming up next. What we going over on now?
Yeah, so we're going Jarvis Landry over 39.5 receiving yards here. Bucs have one of the better, we're going all overs here, okay? Even though I do think this game is going to go under, but that's neither here nor there. The Bucs have one of the better passing defenses, and New Orleans, the offense has been so underwhelming and messy, but like I mentioned earlier, they do pretty well against the Bucs. Chris Olave is the more targeted receiver on the team, but I like this number set low for Landry because although Landry hasn't gone over this total since week 1, this is set higher for a reason. We're going to see a lot of production from Jarvis Landry tonight, so give me the over.
She's on fire. I cannot believe it. I do not know this person, but I love it. Now, we have your lock of the week coming up. Drum roll, please. Can we get an over in this too, Minty? Come on, give me some fire, girl.
Yes. You know what? It's going to be the Commanders and Giants. I originally had the under 40.5 points, but I changed it to the over. You know, I know these aren't 2 high-scoring offenses, and pair that with 2 solid scoring defenses and the fact that this matchup has gone under in 7 of their last 11 meetings, but Washington is heating up at the right time, and although the Giants will be relying on the ground game and killing the clock, I kind of expect this to be a shootout because it's a divisional game. The under is the most bet total this week, and that makes me very, very worried, which is why I'm going over 40.5 points for this one.
Minty, I love the overs. I love being in the sports book with you. I love that you're about the only person right now that can actually give Andy Behrens the business, since Harmon and I are doing a terrible job at it. So thanks for blessing me with your presence in the sports book, and I hope we get to do it again soon.
Thank you. Good luck.
Now, new users at BetMGM can take advantage of a special offer this Sunday. Bet $10 on any game. Yes, any game, and you will win $200. Sign up today at betmgm.com/Yahoo VIP.
Oh, all right. Tank gets to have all the fun with Minty in the sportsbook, and I got to hang out with Andy for Make Your Pick. Of course, Make Your Pick isn't about Andy. It's all about you. We assist a few viewers with their messiest start-sit decisions. Let's see what those beautiful people are asking. First one up here, Andy. We have Jay, who wants us to pick 3 out of Travis Etienne, Christian Kirk, Garrett Wilson, Christian Watson, or Chris Godwin in a half PPR to fill my 2 wide receivers and a flex. Wow, Andy, I'm no longer salty at you. I'm salty at this guy, Jay, with all these great options to pick from.
Seriously. Well, if Minty can take like 5 overs in a row, then I can turn over a new leaf as well and actually not play a running back in the flex. I think I'm going to go with Christian Kirk here for reasons that you mentioned earlier. Slot receivers against Detroit basically all year, and certainly recently, have just been absolutely money. So I got to go Kirk. And then I'm going to go Garrett Wilson. Already discussed Mike White against that Vikings defense and how generous they've been. So I'm going to go Wilson. I think I'm going to go Christian Watson as well and just sort of ride this streak because that Bears defense has been dreadful. It feels weird to sit Chris Godwin. It feels weird to sit ETN, but I'm going to do it. These options are all spectacular.
I don't think I can sit Travis Etienne and Chris Godwin, so we were not helpful at all to you, Jay, because we can't come to there. All right, next one up. We're going to go with a guy that loves his sports. Hell of a username. I'm going to make you rage quit. What a great segment there of names here. Start 2 players here. Oh, my God, another group of great options. Why can't they send us the easy questions, Andy? We got to start 2 here. You got Garrett Wilson, Samaje Perine, Tony Pollard, and Brandon Ayuk. I'm going to go ahead and say you got to play Brandon Ayuk, right, Andy? I mean, can we come to an agreement on that? You know I'm going to say that. I know you've got Ayuk high in the rankings, but who is our second pick from these 3 beautiful-looking options?
Yeah, I've got Ayuk, first of all, really high in the ranks this week, and we've got a dinged Deebo Samuel as well. I think it's a great matchup for him. Ayuk has been spectacular over about the last month and a half, so I think really good shot that he finds the end zone here. And then I'm going to go Samaje Perine. Tank discussed him earlier. Again, assuming no Joe Mixon this week, it's a great matchup and a super high-scoring game, and Perine has been great over the last 2 weeks. So this is really close, but just this morning I sort of leapfrogged Tony Pollard in the running back ranks with Perine. So that's the direction I'm going.
Yeah, just saw from Jay Glazer that Joe Mixon won't play. So, yeah, I think Samaje Perine is the other locked-in option. All right, people who have Josh Allen on their fantasy teams, like me, shout out to me, are absolutely crushing it right now. But Josh Allen himself, his fantasy teams, not so much. Let's see what he had to say on this week's Eckler's Edge.
Have you had any interest, any connection in the fantasy football space?
Yeah, so we played for Pride here in Buffalo. There's a few of us that have played every year since I've been here. I've typically had some success. This year, not so much.
Ooh.
Oh no.
I think I'm 2-9 at this point. Just a tough year for the boy. You know, I had some guys go down with injuries, which again, part of the game. I had the first pick overall. I messed up by not drafting, Austin here.
You drafted yourself.
I tried to play it smart. I was doing all these mock drafts. I was listening to what all these insiders had, like, oh, Josh is going to be in like the second or third, which is fine. He drafts quarterbacks at high. Understanding that who I'm playing with, I'm playing with teammates, a couple of guys in the training staff, a couple strength staff guys. Someone was going to pick me in the first round. I should have known that and understood that. Stupid me. I deserve it.
Hey, now you know. When you have an opportunity, you always take yourself first. Hey, that's the only thing you can bet on. As far as, that's the only thing that you're out there and you can control.
Messed up. Now I know.
Now you know. Now you know.
You want your sports news in more than just a few characters? With the help of a bunch of different characters?
You play better than me, I'll respect the shit out of you.
He beat us, yes. I'm not a ball player. Prince had hops.
Hosted by everyone's favorite character.
Only time will tell if that's a lie or a big-ass lie.
You're Calais Campbell's brother, so Calais got the most sacks that he has is on me.
Give us 2 minutes and we'll give you The Rush. Weekday mornings on Yahoo Sports.
Welcome to Mad Bets, everyone. I am Minty Beth alongside Jared Quay and Pam Maldonado. I'm Ariel Epstein.
We've got a big Sunday night football game.
It's time for some Monday Night Football. Jared, let's kick things off with you. What's your best bet this week?
Oh, I love my bet with 5-star confidence.
Ariel, you can call it a homer pick if you want. It's not.
By the way, that probably will be in Prop Queen coming up on Sunday.
I'm gonna be busting these babies out this weekend.
Woo! You did that with your winning bets, huh? You've been on fire. That's what you buying with your winnings?
Oh man, I love it.
All right, just moments away from kickoff, so let's get to as many social media questions as we possibly can. We're going to start with Astronaut Mike. Shout out to NASA, shout out to Space Force, cool. This question is Dameon Pierce, oh I love it when they give the matchups. Dameon Pierce versus Cleveland, Kyren Williams versus Seattle, or Zonovan Knight, haven't talked about him yet on the show, at Minnesota. I'm gonna take this question because I'm gonna go with Dameon Pierce again. This is how far Dameon Pierce has fallen. It's been a couple of rough weeks, I get it, but once again, it's Cleveland. This is about as friendly as a matchup gets for a running back, and Dameon Pierce has been so good all season. He's still among the missed tackle leaders on the year. Like, you gotta play him here in this spot. Shouldn't even roster him if you're not gonna just auto start him against the Cleveland Browns defense. Next question here is from D'Lo. D'Lo asks, PPR, start 2, Zeke Elliott, Treylon Burks, Leonard Fournette in the flex spots. Tank, I'll send this to you.
Yeah, I think with me, I'll go with Zeke Elliott and Treylon Burks. You see me kind of squinting because the lettering is small on the computer in front of me. But, I mean, Leonard Fournette is, that's how I've been feeling about Lenny since he kind of went off earlier in the season. And I really talked about Treylon Burks coming over the past couple weeks. So, yeah, give me those 2 guys and sit Fournette. That's how I'm feeling.
Yeah, I like that call. Full PPR, okay to go receiver there. Let's take one from Casey. Casey is asking, it is a half PPR league, Kareem Hunt, friendly matchup against Houston, or Nico Collins for the flex. Matt, which direction are you going?
Man, yeah, it is really tempting with Kareem Hunt. They theoretically could just run all over the Houston Texans, right? They should be able to control that game. I think Nick Chubb can go off. But Kareem Hunt really hasn't been getting that much usage lately. Obviously, Deshaun Watson's back this week. Maybe that changes some of the offense. I don't really see that. I don't really see how that would affect Kareem Hunt getting more touches. So I know it's spicy, but give me Nico Collins, man. At some point, all that volume's got to turn into some fantasy production. Why not this week against Cleveland? Why not?
Oh, why not this week? I need it. Let's take one here from Hot Stove Steve, who is asking Alvin Kamara. Man, talk about how the mighty have fallen. We don't usually see Kamara's name in these questions. Alvin Kamara, Josh Palmer, or Treylon Burks. I know I had a bunch of nice things to say about Josh Palmer earlier, but man, I gotta go Alvin Kamara here. He's obviously facing a Bucs defense that's really good, but it's not exactly what it's been in the past against the run. Kamara's still getting a lot of volume in the pass game. The carries have been a little bit up and down, but I can't veer away from him there. He's going to get plenty of touches in this thing. Best shot to find the end zone from all these options. Let's take one more here. It's Exy asking Najee Harris, Brandon Ayuk, or Zonovan Knight. Tank, which way are you going?
Oh, I get to answer a Brandon Ayuk question? Oh my goodness, I cannot.
Better answer it right. Answer it right. You better answer it right, Tank.
Actually, I've been giving Harmon so much hell on this one. Like, I've been talking up this San Francisco 49ers matchup with the Miami Dolphins. Man, I'm going to go ahead and lean Brandon Ayuk. Like, listen, Zonovan Knight, like Robert Saleh said that's going to be RBC, like a running back by committee. So he should be the lead dog, but there may be some touches stolen here or there. So Najee has been Najee, even though he's improved lately over the past couple of weeks. But man, damn it, I'm going to throw Harmon a bone. Give me Brandon Ayuk. Peace be with you, brother. It's the holidays.
I'd love to see.
And also with
I'd love
you.
to see you two coming together.
I know we're coming together just to come at you next. Keep your head on the swivel, bro.
A lot of good that's been doing us.
All right, that's gonna do it for this edition of Fantasy Football Live. Remember to check back in here every Sunday at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, and keep up with the latest analysis, daily content, and our podcast, of course. That's gonna do it. Good luck, everyone, in Week 13.
Let's go, Mike effing White. Let's get it.